On them, I need a motion to approve the minutes of previous meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Frazier, Ms. Hogan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Carried. We'll move it right into the action agenda. Kevin, you want to take care of that?
Or the first item on the agenda is on page 2, to request to reimburse the village. This is for the post-season turf renovation that was done by Jim Gerard for turf management. It's not one that falls under my purview that I can just approve. This is over the $2,500. It's $8,442 and change.
All right, just so everybody knows, this does have to go to finance after we approve it or disapprove it, goes to finance, and then it'll go to the fourth meeting. So I need a motion to approve the payment of this 85.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right. Who seconds it?
Edna, I'll make the motion.
Right, Edna, I got that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
I don't see it. Did I hear a second or?
I think Andrea
Oh,
seconded.
Andrew, you raised your hand. I'm sorry. I gotta look up and down. Okay, that's good. All right, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried.
All right, next thing on the agenda is referral pending items. This still has to do with the wall at the Tiki Resort. We haven't really done much with it now that we're in the spring. And hopefully when we get back to work, we can figure out something. I've brought this to the 3Es just to kind of discuss, but we really haven't come up with a solution for it yet.
All right. And we'll move to number 5. Mayor Blaze.
Yeah, most of this is for the mayor to discuss. I just had a couple things to really quickly add in. One is there's quotes out with the village right now looking for our turf maintenance for this season. I think Keith, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we received one quote already from turf management and you're just waiting on a couple other ones.
Yes, that's correct. I was waiting on 2 more. I know one is definitely actively going to quote it to us. The third one canceled on us just this morning. Actually, they decided they were too busy. So we have two cancellations from supplying the quote and 2 quotes that should be pending, or 1 more quote pending.
And once we get those, we'll bring that back through committee. And then the last thing I had, Keith and I had talked about yesterday is the playground equipment, some of the stuff like the spider web, some of the climbing trees and such, they're starting to show a little wear and tear. So Keith and I are going to get together sometime next week and kind of go through that equipment out there on the playground and just see whether or not, we need to replace it, we need to just keep an eye on it, or whether it can, we can hold off for a couple more years of doing anything with it. So that's on our agenda for next week, just to, of course, standing 6 feet apart, but Dave and I will go out and take a look at, Keith and I will go out and take a look at that playground equipment and see if there's anything that needs to be done right away. And that's all I had, Gene.
All right. And we'll move on to Mayor Blaze.
Okay. As you imagine, with the crisis, I've been dealing with all of the events that we have previously booked, and there's several questions. So these need to be decided by the committee now, because I think that in the next week, possibly, or at least 2 weeks, most of the events that have been booked for the summer are going to make decisions either to completely cancel or to try to postpone and reschedule them at a different time. And I'll mention the ones after we make a decision. The first one is they're all asking if the county and the village would return their deposits if, in fact, they cancel completely and reschedule in 2021.
All right, any comments on that? So they want to return what we have now and take it off the schedule, is that what you're saying?
Right. Most of them would not take it back from what they're saying. Most of them would say, keep our deposit, but apply it to our event in 2021. Some said they would take it back. So it's a decision that we have to decide because, as I say, they'll be asking this. They'll be making the decision in the next week for sure.
Ms. Hogan?
I'm okay with it as long as they apply it to the booking for next year or at a future date
Hmm.
here. I just don't want to see us lose these events.
Right.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Sorry.
All right. Etna, how do you feel about that?
Well, I kind of feel the same way. I think in view of the circumstances, and if they're willing to apply it to next year, I think we should go along with that.
All right, any other? Kevin?
I just wanted to add on the Tow Truck Association is one of our first events before Americade. They've already called and canceled for this year, but they asked me to hold on to their deposit and to apply it for next year's event.
Right. Yep.
I think that's the best idea. I agree with all of you. Let's hold on to there for next year. We don't have to return it. We don't know how things are gonna go as far as finances. Mr. McGowan?
Good morning. Thank you all. Yeah, I if they're willing to, I mean, we're on really unprecedented times here. So, really, if they're willing to hold off and hold the deposit for next year, that's a plus sign, or at a later date. So I'm in favor of doing that.
All right, so it sounds like the consensus of our board is that we'll hold the deposits till next year. I got a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Frazier?
Gene, can you hear me?
Yeah. Dennis, yes.
I second that. We definitely need to get back all the occupancy tax money that we can get. We're in for some dire straits here, and we really need to step back and reorganize. So this is a good move.
Yep.
I see we're looking to have maybe a OCTAX small committee meeting to discuss some of this stuff, so, yeah.
Correct.
All right, so I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Blaze, that's.
Okay. The second question is from basically two of the larger events, Adirondack Winery and Americade. Is the county and the village willing to waive the fees for use of the festival space and the county parking lot, or are we willing to reduce the fees for use because of the extenuating circumstances?
All right, just so, before we answer that question, I got an email from our attorney, county attorney, telling myself to let everybody know that's unconstitutional. The way we cannot reduce fees.
Okay.
That's something we got to look into. She warned me about it to make sure I knew about the resolution. The way it's set up, we cannot reduce fees because it's not fair to the other people that pay full price.
Good. No, I agree. I mentioned that to our board, and our board feels as though, we're all in the same situation as everybody else. We need whatever funds we were to count on, rather than waiving those and losing everything. We need to continue to maintain the park, and we need whatever fees we can garner. And if they're going to go through with their event this year, that's a business decision that they have to make.
Right, because it's considered a gift. I have it right here, what she's telling me. It's considered a gift, and that's unconstitutional for what we do with everybody else. So
Okay,
that situation we'll have to let stand the way it is.
good.
Anything else, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, the third item is they're all asking for, and I would assume they're probably correct, that people are going to be asking for hand washing stations. They feel that it's our responsibility to provide those stations, and I have to get a comment, obviously, from the committee. If you want to provide those stations, then we would go out and get some quotes. Kevin, perhaps, or Keith, some companies that provide mostly porta-johns, I would guess, do the same thing. Or do we want to leave that to the responsibility of the respective events?
Are they talking about at the park, Mayor?
Yes, hand washing at the park itself, yes.
The park is closed except for the walk.
No, during each of their events.
Huh. I don't know. I don't know. I have mixed emotions about that. So we're still going to hold some events there before this thing is over?
No. There's no events going to be held while the park is closed. These are events that are contemplated taking place this summer, some postponing or others later on in the season. But they're already asking for hand washing stations.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the only ones that we're gonna do, like say maybe in July and August, and I think it's a good idea. We should try it.
Well, let's at least look into it, see what it's going to cost us.
If we can get some bids, yep, Mr. Mayor, get back
Yeah.
to us on it.
Sure, I'm sure between Kevin and Keith or whatever, we can find out. So it looks to me like, number one, Americade is going to postpone, and they're going to reschedule for August 18th through the 22nd. That would be the weekend before Travers Week. That's what he's thinking about. Now, yeah, he's going to make his decision this week. He says that his vendors are very much in favor of not wanting to postpone, but not wanting to postpone completely, but wanting to do it this year, but at another time. So he's looking at 18 to 20. The Wine Festival is the only other one we had scheduled in June. She's looking at postponing until September 25th and 26th. This would be the weekend after the Balloon Festival. So that's FY for all your information. It looks to me like both of them are not going to cancel. They're going to postpone and try and do it at another time. As Kevin mentioned, the tow truck show has already canceled. The barbershop quartet group, which we had booked obviously into Lake George, which was another big one, has already canceled. The last item that I have is a new group, and yep.
Mayor, it's Dennis.
Dennis, can you speak up?
What do you think the situation is going to be with motel rooms in the middle of August? With the mayor?
Well, yep, he knows about that. I went through it. I was on the phone with him almost for an hour yesterday and an hour last week. He understands that. He thinks that his attendance is going to be about 50% of what it would usually be. So he's saying that he'll probably fill up what's ever left of the hotels at that particular time. But and I agree with him. He doesn't want to cancel.
I agree.
You're better having it and having it ongoing. Otherwise, it's never going to be the 47th annual anymore. Number one, and secondly, whatever we can put down in the festival space, something like that. There's going to be some challenges for us to pull it off in August. We didn't have. There's certainly not going to be any block party and some of his. But there's things he's going to have to cut back on too, because he's not going to have the. He was concerned, of course, about the OCTAX, and I told him he could give you a call, Dennis, on that.
Yeah, I've talked to him several times, Mayor. He's
okay.
He's interested in getting the money to help him get organized here. He's cash poor. And then he also asked about waiving the fees for the park and the parking.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, he was another one of the ones. But I think we're better off letting both of them postpone, and certainly having the wine festival the end of September is a bonus, and we don't lose the revenue for the park as well.
Yeah, it's a good time to drink wine.
So the last item that I have, Mr. Chairman, It's a group that has been, and most of you probably have read about this group in the Post-Star. It's an annual powwow that's put on in, has been in Moreau Park for quite a while. And they had some problems with them down there, not following a lot of the rules. What it is, it's a Indian powwow, much like a reenactment that comes in with vendors. The vendors, for the most part, have RVs that they work out of. So they're talking about putting the RVs obviously inside the festival space, and then the vendors sell their wares while the Indians are doing the dancing. And but then at night they said they had a bunch of people that come and do the dances and things like that, and then they camp overnight in tents. And I discouraged them from trying to camp overnight in any manner, actually. But I understand Keith, our superintendent, told me they've made arrangements with the state to put some tents over in the Battleground Park. They would go there and stay, so there would be no camping. The problem Moreau had with them was they made fires at night. They cooked in there, and they lit fires right in the park on the grass. And I told them we wouldn't put up with any of that. The question is whether we want to book them at all, and if we do book them, do we want to prohibit them from sleeping overnight in tents and or their RVs, or do we want them to insist that they move all their overnight facilities out of the park and then come back? It's a 2-day event.
Do they, I can see not having the open fires. I don't mind them camping over there. Truthfully, it's a good place to camp. They do it when they have the enactments. So no, I'd be willing to give it a try.
Just tell them that there's to be no cooking, no fires, and but it's okay to camp.
Yeah, no open fires. They certainly can cook with a camp stove,
Yeah.
but no open fires.
Okay. It's the other caveat is it's July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, so it's 4th of July.
Oh, geez.
Well,
What is it?
I wanted you to make that decision with an open mind. It's July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We've never really had any. We've had Indians dancing in the village before, but they haven't been.
Have we ever?
Yeah, they haven't been on down at that park. We had them in the 60s on the main street, and we had a lot of problems with them. But these folks are different, and
It involves
so
fireworks?
well, they'll love the fireworks
I said
if we-
fire water, not fireworks.
if we have them. So I'll go ahead and book them and give them the extra rules.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Good idea.
I think,
Okay,
in my opinion, yeah, we're gonna need all the business we can get
right. I agree. Yeah.
this year, so.
Now, give them a whirl, see what happens.
All right, so I guess everybody on the committee is in favor of it, so move ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Okay, and the only comment, I don't know if you've all got the message, but I think the Saratoga Racetrack is definitely gonna make every effort to open. It's July 16th, so
Wow,
that's
good.
good. So
That's a good
I got
thing.
that notice yesterday, and that'll be really good. All right, open it to the privilege of the floor, or anybody else have any other comments? Was that Miss Bramer? Miss Bramer?
Thank you, Chairman. I might have missed this at the beginning. Is the park open right now for people to be in there walking around? No,
No,
Okay. nobody, they shouldn't be on the little play equipment. They shouldn't be,
I can't hear.
She wanted to know if they're going to be on the play equipment. I thought the trail was open.
No.
I'm not sure. I'm totally asking. I have no idea. Kevin?
Well, let's refer to Kevin. Kevin?
yeah, so a couple weeks ago, maybe about a week and a half ago, Dan Bruce from the town of Lake George was concerned because there was a lot of people in the park. Believe it or not, since the bathrooms were locked up, apparently they found some human feces around the play equipment. So we decided that it was best to completely close the park down. So I had my grounds crew basically go up and put up snow fence around any of the entrances. Now, we've been back down there 2 or 3 times, repairing the snow fence that was zip tied up because someone's been ripping it back down on us. But right now, the park is closed. There's signs up to say it's closed until further notice. And I don't know when we'll open it back up.
Kevin, what about the walking trail on the easement side?
That's still open. The south parcel we haven't been in. This is just the Charles R. Wood Park. The south parcel that you're referring to is still open. People are still walking around that. I've been down there a couple different times just to check the snow fence. Over there, they are maintaining social distance from one another. And, you know, there's families walking together, but they're not next to necessarily anybody else. But that's a little more wide open. There was just with the skate park, there was too many kids. I mean, I the first night that Dan had said something, I went down there. There was 30 kids in the skate park. So we decided it was better just to close the park down.
Okay.
Kevin, where's your caddy?
Don't I wish? That's my background. Just
All
a
right,
picture.
anything else? Anything else? Well, thank you all for coming and getting in on Zoom. And I didn't think I'd be able to handle it, but now I'm learning more about it. So thank you very much. Hey, stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you again. Thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.